As the calendar flips from 2023 to 2024, there are mega events on the horizon that seem almost a lock to occur, and another handful that we're hoping Santa can bring late. Take a look at what we came up with and drop a thought of your own in the comments. Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk. A date is set, contracts are signed, the city is preparing. Yes, Virginia. It seems there might just be a significant heavyweight title fight in 2024. Unless boxing reality rears its oft-ugly head and scuttles things, championship claimants Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk will crown the division's first undisputed kingpin since Lennox Lewis beat Evander Holyfield in Las Vegas in 1999. They're on the docket for February 17th in the burgeoning combat sports kingdom of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where Fury very nearly lost his place in line when he was dropped and taken the distance by ring newbie Francis Ngannou before getting a split decision in October. But at the presser to announce things a few weeks later, he was in all-time form. Fury said, "Usyk, balls have shriveled up now. Sissy with an earring in. Sausage, you're getting knocked out cold. You can't beat me, you can never beat me. If you beat me in your dreams, you better wake up and apologize." I stole that from Ali, by the way. Sorry. Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev will graduate from signed and sealed to fingers crossed. That's been the status of a light heavyweight unification between champs Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev for what feels like forever, as the two have combined for 14 victories in top-tier title fights and begun following those wins with calls for a get-together. That was again the case for Bivol after he blanked British contender Lyndon Arthur over 12 rounds last weekend in Riyadh, and it seems close to actually happening, provided Beterbiev successfully defends his trio of belts against ex-168-pound champ Callum Smith. Smith has won 2 fights in a combined 6 rounds since climbing to 175, following a super middleweight loss to Canelo Alvarez, but Beterbiev is one of the sport's rarest breeds with a 100% KO rate, including 8 title fight wins and 60 total rounds. Bivol said after Saturday's fight, "It was good sparring for me against Arthur. I'm glad that at the end of the year I got this fight, and now I see my way to my goal, to be undisputed against the winner of Beterbiev Smith. I hope this fight will happen in 2024. Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. Speaking of Canelo, he's got another would-be rival. David Benavidez has an unbeaten resume that includes a pair of WBC title reigns at 168 pounds, neither of which ended inside a ring. His first championship claim was halted by a failed drug test in 2018, and a successful reascension was foiled when he missed weight for a title defense in 2020. But he never went away and has begun banging the drum for a third run, which means a date with Alvarez. Meanwhile, boxing's signature Mexican superstar has been picking up belts of varying worth in the weight class since 2018 and unified the 4 most recognized trinkets with defeats of the aforementioned Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant in 2020 and 2021. He's 9-0 with 4 KOs in the weight class and said after a defeat of Jermell Charlo in September that he'd return for Cinco de Mayo weekend in 2024, though. As some critics have since expounded on, he didn't call for Benavidez by name. Jermell Charlo versus Tim Tszyu. It's not the sport's most glamorous weight class, but there's a big fight to be had at 154 pounds. Though his most recent fight was a barely combative 12-rounder against Alvarez, let's not forget that Jermell Charlo earned a 4-belt claim in his own kingdom before the sport's ever-present sanctioning body absurdly took it away. That said, it may have created a dispute that needs settling. Second-generation slugger Tim Tszyu swooped in and put his stamp on Charlo's vacated WBO title with a 12-round defeat of Brian Mendoza in October, which ran his record to a pristine 24-0 and provided an opportunity for a post-fight call-out.
What's next? Canelo or Charlo? You want Canelo? Hey, fuck with fucking Canelo, man. That's a privilege and an honor. Charlo, of course.
The two men had been set to meet in January 2023, but the bout was shelved after Charlo broke his left hand during training and then abandoned when he got the date with Alvarez. Charlo voluntarily relinquished his IBF title in November, rather than following through with a purse bid for a mandatory defense against Bakram Murtazaliev. Still, Tszyu said, "It's their bout that determines the top man. He fought Canelo, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world," he said. "Charlo is the best 154, but let's prove to everyone who is really the king of the division." Terence Crawford versus Jaron Ennis. Terence Crawford has earned the right to call his shots. He's unbeaten in 40 fights, has earned belts in 3 divisions and achieved 4-belt status in 2 of them, most recently thanks to a 9-round brutalizing of Errol Spence Jr. at 147. So no one ought to blame him if he follows a rematch with Spence by chasing a huge bout with Alvarez at 168, or perhaps a champ-champ date with a still-reigning Charlo at 154. If he stays at welterweight, though, Jaron Ennis would like to see him. A 26-year-old from Philadelphia, Ennis has scored 28 KOs in 31 straight victories, and like Tszyu at 154, was elevated to a championship claim of his own when the IBF stripped Crawford's claim after he was contractually committed to a second bout with Spence instead of a mandatory defense against Ennis, who'd been holding its interim title. But while the backstory is regrettable, the menace is tantalizing.
That's the fight that I want. You know, I want that fight. I wanted Spence. You know, but I don't know what Spence doing. If he's staying at 47, 54, but those are two main guys I want. Bud and Spence. Everybody knew that. You know, and I'm gonna keep saying it. You know, until I get my opportunity. You know, this is my time. My time is now, and I feel like I'm the best fighter in the world, and I want to show my skills and be able to prove it. And, you know, shut these guys up.
What do you feel like you have to do to get these fights?
I feel like I just gotta keep winning. You know, keep making noise. You know, like I said, keep stepping on these guys. They gotta see me though. I got a belt now. Come get your belt back if you think. You know what I'm saying? If you think you're the best in the world, you know.
Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. It's nice when there's a fight to be made, and both guys seem to want it. That's the case for a showdown at 140 pounds between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, who've been calling each other's names since their early pro days at 135. Haney ultimately won all 4 significant belts at lightweight before recently climbing to super lightweight and whipping Regis Prograis to win the WBC's championship. Garcia briefly held the WBC's interim status at lightweight, but never landed a full-fledged title shot before moving full-time to his new weight class in 2022. He's 3-1 with 2 KOs, losing to Gervonta Davis in a catchweight bout at 136 in his last 4 fights. And both he and Haney had been actively matchmaking on social media before the reigning champ took to DAZN over the weekend to suggest a deal could be close. Haney said, "Ryan Garcia has called me out, and I've called him out for years. We're in negotiations, and it could be next. I want to make the biggest fights happen, and I think it's time me and Ryan get it on. More than likely, it's next." Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Even with Haney and Garcia, and Teofimo Lopez too, having graduated to the 140-pound ranks, it's not as if the landscape at lightweight was left barren and worthless. 8 months after his finish of Garcia, Davis still has the second-tier title he held during Haney's full-fledged reign at 135, and he's got a new foil moving into the neighborhood too. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Shakur Stevenson. The former Olympic medalist began his pro career with belts at 126 and 130 pounds and became a 3-division claimant in November with a decision over Edwin de los Santos that earned him the WBC's vacated championship at lightweight, and with the new jewelry came the immediate back and forth between him and Davis, neither of whom tends to shy from such dissension. In fact, the biggest obstacle between here and fight night may be the competitive lines often drawn between Stevenson's apparatus at Top Rank and the Premier Boxing Champions group with which Davis often works. But if it happens, it's a fascinating contrast of Stevenson's boxing mastery and Davis's perpetual menace. Stevenson told the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, "Honestly, number 1 is Tank. Me and Tank is the best fight. You can name 15 other fighters, but there's one fight that, truthfully, needs to happen in boxing." If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos on the screen right now.